Hi, I'm Jason Japanesa, Global Partner Manager for Sanil Mobile.
Hi, I'm Duleepa Karnaratne, Product Manager for Sanil Mobile.
So today we are going to talk about going beyond APIs. So Duleepa, to talk about this, I've been actually hearing a lot about API management platforms and how telcos are using API management platforms. What do you actually think about API management platform and how has it been evolving over the last couple of years?
Well, API management platforms they are in the market for a couple of years right now. So initially, how they used industries used API management platforms mainly to increase their internal efficiencies. So what they did was they had this API tier where they integrated all their services into the API tier. So by doing that, actually they were able to achieve internal efficiencies. Like they were able to manage all their internal services from a central location. And at the same time, whenever they wanted to replace some services, they could do it very easily and seamlessly without affecting other other services. And later on, what they realized was the potential, especially the revenue potential with the API management platforms over the APIs by exposing those APIs to outside world. So a good example is Amazon, where they started as a traditional book selling company and then moved on to API based company with currently making billions of revenues. Similarly, there were so many other companies who exposed their APIs to outside world and started making new revenues. Telcos also try to do the same thing, but due to some reason only very few were able to successful in bringing in new revenues after exposing APIs.
I think that's where I see the issue is, because if, as he was saying, right, if you want to monetize on API and to actually get it as a sustainable revenue model, you only can charge about a couple of cents for each API. To actually make it a model, you need to be able to do like millions of API calls, which I think is not practical, or it's not easy to make millions of API calls every month. So have you seen anything contradict this, or has there been any success factors other than actually charging based on API calls?
Well, this has been a model that we got used to, like counting the number of API calls and charging for that. But if you really look at the problem, it's not APIs that bring in you revenue. It's the services that make revenue. Assume that I'm a developer, or I'm doing some startup. So what I will do is I will create a service and I'll deliver it to my end customer. So my end customer is paying me for the service I deliver. He's not paying me for the number of API calls I used. So at the same time, nowadays the traditional model is such that I need to pay something upfront, let's say to buy 10,000 API calls. So especially if I'm a startup, I need to do some sort of an initial investment, which is a considerable amount for me. So what if my business is not successful? I have to close my business. So in that case, it's very hard to maintain a sustainable business model with the existing model. Whereas if you start charging for the service, then what happens is I will start making some revenue, and at the same time I'm more than happy to share something with the platform provider. So in that case, I might even willing to pay something extra. So that's how we can change this business model to make it a sustainable business model and start making more revenue.
Okay, actually that's interesting that you actually brought it up. So basically what you're saying is, without looking at charging per API, you're actually saying that we can actually charge for the services which have been created using the API.
Yes.
So because the services are much bigger in scale, the pie is bigger, so everybody gets a bigger share of the pie, right? Okay, but that being said, is that all that we are saying that going beyond APIs are? Because the word API itself is being associated with developers. Like say, APIs are being used by developers, but in a country or in a community, there are only a handful of developers, right? Because developers are not the people who actually come up with the idea. Developers are the people who actually create the software to deliver the idea, right? Have you ever seen anything that contradicts to this with the API management?
APIs and developers go hand in hand because you cannot think of API management platform or APIs without any developers. So nowadays, almost all the API management platforms, have all these SDKs, sample applications, simulators, guides, and whatnot. But if you want to go beyond APIs, you need to do something more, something extra. What you have to do is mainly you have to build a proper developer ecosystem around your APIs. So in order to do that, you will have to conduct developer sessions, tech talks, webinars, hackathons, mainly to keep your developers engaged with the APIs. And not only that, actually, you can identify passionate people and form a team as developer evangelists. The key role of the developer evangelist is to get the developers engaged in all these activities and mainly help the developers to create applications using the APIs. As you mentioned, Jason, now number of developers are only handful, but if you really look at outside, innovation happens outside the developers. So the challenge is how we can bring this innovation to rest of the people. I mean, especially with the people who don't have programming knowledge, how we can give this opportunity for them, for the non-techies.
So I think that's the key, where API should not be just about developers, where, as you were saying, there has to be another layer on top of API management platform which allows non-technical users, or we can call them non-techies, to come and create services. Let's say, for example, if an SME or an enterprise actually has a good idea, the first thing they should not be thinking about, hey, I need to hire a developer to do this. It should be, how can I monetize on this idea? To do this, they should have a layer where they can actually monetize an idea with getting a developer or getting something software developed being an entry barrier, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think going beyond API should be.
But we can't forget about the startups, because if you look at all the startups that have come up, it's not necessarily developers have started all these startups. Almost all the startups were initiated or founded by people who don't have programming knowledge but with business background. So what happens is, whenever they get an idea, they need to go behind developers, or they need to find a developer team to bring their application idea to life. But if there's a service creation environment, as you mentioned, then they can easily take their ideas to the market, because the platform takes care of all their technical needs.
So to summarize, going beyond APIs is not about just having an API management platform, but to have an API management platform where you can create services consuming the API, and where you can monetize on the services which are being created using these APIs which has been exposed. But it should not just stop there. To take it to the next level, I would say, is to actually have a service layer where non-technical users or non-developers can actually come and actually create services, right? And without being a technical knowledge being a barrier to actually monetize on their ideas that they might be having.
Yeah, and most importantly, it's not APIs that bring you revenue, it's the services that make money.
All right, thanks Dilip. I think it was really interesting talking to you today.
Thanks.
Thanks.